Well, every governor has their own particular state to fight for. Vermont's challenge is different than some of the other states. We happen to be proud of the fact that because of Governor Cunin and Dean's leadership, we're the first state in the country through our program called Dr. Dinosaur that insures all of our children. We're also a state that insures almost everybody at 300% of poverty. So as governor, healthcare is the biggest and least sustainable part of my state budget. We're the biggest healthcare provider in the state. So, in some of the other states, they don't have as generous programs. They approach healthcare differently, and they should probably have some flexibility where they need it, as long as they don't reduce standards. I support them having flexibility too. My challenge is this: it's about cost. And I have watched some of the most capable politicians in America, from President Obama, President Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Howard Dean here in Vermont, both on a state and federal level, fail in designing a system that contains cost. That is what drags us down. I believe Vermont can be the first state in the country that shows how to get cost containment right.
Well, and how would the options you're looking at affect employers directly, both the larger employers and the smaller ones, those who currently provide insurance or perhaps more generous insurance to their workers? How would it work with the employers?
Well, it's my belief that it's not an employer's responsibility, and this might surprise you as a Democrat, but not an employer's responsibility to provide health insurance to their employees any more than we ask them to pay for their employees' car insurance, life insurance, or fire insurance on their home. What I want to design is a system where healthcare is a right and the health care follows the individual. If we can take that burden off of the backs of our employers by using a broad-based funding mechanism, as in a payroll tax and other broad-based revenue sources, to replace the current dollars, we will be doing our employers a huge favor. I believe that the states that we currently lose jobs to, frankly, like New Hampshire to our east, who has no income tax, those small businesses will say, hey, wait a minute. If I can get rid of my biggest rising cost, which is health insurance to my employees, by moving to Vermont, that looks attractive. So I think it's a jobs creator. We have to do it. But the important part is not how we pay for it. The important part is, can Vermont be the state that figures how to contain cost? Because frankly, the rising cost of healthcare will bankrupt America. And that's what the Republican Congress, I believe, has all wrong. The jobs destroyer for us is the rising cost of healthcare. That's what's going to drive jobs out of their state. That's what's going to break the banks of the middle class. And we've got to get this right. If we keep seeing healthcare costs rise 8, 10, 12%, 20% higher, much higher than the level of incomes in America, our goose is cooked. We will not compete.
Now, Governor Shumlin, you are a businessman yourself. You founded with your brother Putney Student Travel. I want to ask about another business, one of the most powerful businesses in the country. It's the insurance industry and how they're responding. I was just reading a piece by Russell McIver, who is head of the Corporate Crime Reporter. He says Vermont's biggest insurer, Blue Cross Blue Shield, with 75% of the state's health insurance business, signaled it might be interested in taking Shao at his word. He's the Harvard economist that Vermont hired who addressed that joint session of the legislature. The Blue Cross lobbyist, the Blue Cross Blue Shield lobbyist in Vermont said, if there's a single payer system, we'd like to be the single payer. Your response, Governor Shumlin?
Well, he's a smart insurance executive, and he's got it right. Listen, here's why we can do this in Vermont, why we have a better shot than perhaps anywhere else in America. Today is the anniversary of the Supreme Court decision that allows corporations to spend unlimited cash to influence our elections. What is different about Vermont is that our legislators are not in the pockets of special interests. They're in the pockets of their constituents. Now, there's a very simple reason for that. I was president of the Senate. My last campaign cost $2,500. My counterpart in New York's campaign, the president of the Senate just across the lake, probably cost multiple millions of dollars. My point is, we have a citizen legislature in this state. We are not beholden to the special interests. We fight for our constituents and their best interest. And frankly, our insurance companies are smart enough to know that. So I think that we all know that what's destroying democracy is the extraordinary influence of corporate money. The folks that are making money off the system then elect the politicians that make the decisions about their economic future. So we have a real opportunity here. And I think our insurance companies are smart enough to see that we're going to make progress, and they want to be the company that has the single payer.
Well, Governor Shumlin, it's a perfect lead into our next segment, which is precisely about Citizens United. We'll be speaking with the head of Common Cause. But before we do that, Vermont certainly is not far into firsts. The first state whose legislature voted to legalize gay marriage. You are also pushing.
That bill, by the way.
Sorry?
I say I sponsored that bill, by the way.
As the Speaker of the legislature of the House?
As the President of the Senate, yeah.
President of the Senate. So you did this. Also, you are pushing to shut down Vermont Yankee, which would make you, Vermont, one of the first states to shut down a nuclear power plant. And yet you, Governor Shumlin, as a legislator, were known as the legislator of Vermont Yankee.
You mean a while ago? Yeah. Well, let's talk about nuclear power if you wish. Our biggest challenge, as we all know, is to ensure that we pass our planet on to our kids with a planet that's livable. And with climate change, and we see the climate change happening in Vermont because we're close to the ground, we're farmers, we work the land, we understand the challenges that we have. Our challenge as a country is to acknowledge that our aging nuclear power plants will not perform beyond their design life. We have only one in Vermont. It was designed to be shut down in 2012. My feeling was, for the many years that I represented the district where the plant lives, and I was born and raised right in back of the plant, that we had a commitment to keep our promise and keep running it for 40 years. That 40 years is up in 2012. It's old, it's tired, and it should be retired. And, it's leaking tritium. We are the environmental state. It's a hazard in many ways. So I did make the decision as Senate President to vote to have it shut down. We won that vote, and we expect we will retire in 2012. I think that more states, including New York, will find that this fantasy that we're living under, that we can run our aging nuclear power plants beyond their designed life without problems and without safety issues, is fantasy.
And you're specifically saying the old nuclear power plants. Do you have a position in terms, because obviously the Obama administration wants to expand the use of nuclear power, as do many in the Republican Party as well. You're not opposed to the general expansion of nuclear power, just the need to shut down the old ones?
Well, I am committed to helping in every way we can to get off of our addiction to oil as quickly as we can. And I actually think that, frankly, that's the jobs opportunities for us in America. As we make the transformation from an oil-based economy to other technologies, we have huge economic opportunities. I want Vermont to harvest some of those in producing windmills and producing solar panels and other things that are going to power this next energy future. Having said that, this is not a debate in Vermont about nuclear power. It's about the aging nuclear power fleet that we're nurturing in this country. And, it's really a different issue. So I haven't weighed in on new plants. I have real concern about what we do with the waste and all the promises that have been made and all the promises that have been broken. I'm a governor who has a high-level nuclear waste dump on the banks of the Connecticut River when the federal government told us that all of that waste would be gone when the license was up in 2012. So I have concerns about the waste, but I also am very committed to ensuring that we get off of our oil-based energy sources. We must, or we won't have a planet that our kids can enjoy.
Vermont Governor Peter Shumlin, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Governor Shumlin joining us from Montpelier, Vermont, the capital of Vermont. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, we look at this first anniversary of Citizens United. Stay with us.